So do you now see my slides or my presenter view?
We see your slides.
Okay, great. Great.
So, yeah. Simon, back to you.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think we need the slide. So, but welcome to Agile Aarhus, the second session. So for those who are new, we are an Aarhus-based community, but we see ourselves as global as well. And we are basically passionate about agile mindset, agile behavior. And we are a community who wish to be straight to the point, meaning that we will have these short condensed sessions at the moment. And we will in the future prioritize to being more local as well, because we will really believe that's a missing feature we have had during the pandemic. So again, the goal is to create a space for insights, for learning, for sharing, and at some point also community and learning to get to know each other. But today we'll have Joakim, but Jan, maybe you'll just spend a few words on what we will have in the near future at least. You're muted, Jan.
Sorry, I'm sharing in the chat a link to Menti that we will use later. You don't have to go there now, but I just posted it there.
Super. Thank you for that, Joakim. Thank you for that segue, Simon. It's soon going to focus on Joakim. There's published 2 other events in the meetup. One of these events are physical in Aarhus, which is what we want to experiment with. We also know from a lot of you that you're kind of sad about that because you're not close to Aarhus. But we also already published a session in February that are going to be virtual. So we're going to drive a hybrid of these. So we are in both spaces. You can find them at the meetup group. So enough about that. Let's go into Joakim or have Joakim share his knowledge with us. I first met Joakim, I think it was an event with Sundén, which is a consultancy agency in Denmark, where he shared his time in Spotify. And that's kind of dumb to say because now people expect it to be about Spotify. And for my sake, at least, I learned a lot. There's a lot of stories out there, but actually understanding what it is. And I see Joakim as a great speaker also, a great amount of knowledge on different topics. I thought we should share him with the community. So over to you, Joakim.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so, and spoiler alert, I will talk about Spotify today as well, or at least some of my experience from that. I'm happy to take questions also later. And when Jan reached out to me and asked if I would want to come to Agile Aarhus, I said yes, definitely. And I don't remember my long answer in that email because it was like 15 years ago. I don't even remember the year. It was one of my first big conferences that I attended was YAO in Aarhus, where I met Martin Fowler. I had dinner with Michael Feathers and Uncle Bob, who were keynoting. I just happened to run into them and pick their brains for the entire evening. They were pretty frustrated with me at the end, I guess. It was me and a volunteer from the conference that was, had dinner with these two, and another speaker came along, and yeah, it was a really amazing experience. And I then did a talk at a Swedish conference, my first conference talk, that I stole or borrowed, you should say, a lot of material from Uncle Bob around software craftsmanship and so on. I was more of a developer then. And it actually made the front page of Computer Sweden, the big industry newspaper. And years later, when I worked with teams, with clients, I saw that they had took that out and put it on the walls and so on. So you could say that it helped launch my speaker career, my time in Aarhus. Another funny anecdote, I don't know if any of you know Gitte Klitgård. When we met years later when she interviewed at Spotify for an Agile coach position, I realized that I told this story because she was from Aarhus, and she said, you know what, I was the other person at the table, the volunteer, but none of us remember the other, only the speakers. That was funny. All right, so the topic is beyond Scrum, how the best are different from the rest. And I actually developed this talk for a Scrum gathering in Belgrade that was last week. So this is only the second time I do this talk, and it was developed for a live audience, but I think hope we can use Mentimeter for some interactivity. So, okay, let's pretend I am a manager at Microsoft. I need your help. I don't know what we should build. We have so many ideas, so many things that we could be doing. You know, lots of stakeholders and the engineers have ideas for different things that we could do. But how do we actually decide what to do? So let's take this, for example, which widget should we use here? So we had an external company produce 5 different designs. We have, I don't know if you're familiar with A/B testing, but let's say that just briefly, the control, that's the incumbent, the existing solution that we already have in place. And then we want to test another one, and we turn it out to a small percentage of the users. We watch their traffic and see how their behavior changes, and helps us decide should we change to the B instead, or treatment as you call it. So I hope you can make it out. The pictures aren't that great, but the control, the existing one is this, and then we have suggestions that the external company produced for us: treatment 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the idea is that these widgets, they're on the MSN site and the real estate site. And when people use these and they are sent to partner sites, and we at MSN Real Estate can get a referral fee. So it's good if we can generate more traffic and referrals in the end. That's what we're measured on. So how do we decide which one to use? And actually, we can have a little bit of interactivity here. So how would you decide in your organization? You have these 6 options that are designed for you. How would you decide which one to choose? Which one should we go with? Who would make that decision? How would it be made? Like, not ideally, but in real life, how would it actually pan out? No idea. You don't work with software, maybe. Oh, yeah, you're answering in the chat, maybe.
I'd hope it'd be based on the analytics, on how your funnel is going, to a degree. Okay, so that's what you're doing at your company, or? That's what I would do. I'm not really working that close with tech. I'm a little bit more with physical innovation now.
Yeah. So ask customers, business representatives, I see. Sure, usages, maybe with some customer insights. Yeah, hopefully. But 9 out of 10 teams or companies that I work with would say something like business representatives. The product owner would decide, or at the conference in Belgrade, I got some answers. Test mockups with the customers. Which one is the prettiest? Things like that. Sure, analyze tracking from existing widgets, but I rarely see anyone do that. So let's see. Which one do you? Let's say that you're the business representatives now, and you have to decide which one should we choose. Now I'm gonna ask you to go to the Menti that I posted the link to post it again. There you go. And which one would you choose? Which one is the best? So look at the picture and then try to answer in menti.com. Which one should we choose? Now we're going to see if I can share that one. Okay, I'm going to reveal the answers. Okay. No one chose 3 and no one chose 5. That's interesting. Or maybe you didn't get there yet. So most of you chose number 4. But I should ask you, I'm going to run a few of these, and if you actually read this paper or read the book and know the answer, then please don't answer. But I haven't found anyone who has done so far. Let me know. Okay, so treatment 4. Anyone who chose treatment 4, can we just hear why did you choose this one?
What's the most simple?
The most simple,
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Inviting, not scary to look at, not too many buttons and controls.
Yeah, simple seems to be winning. Yeah, and actually, the company that built this is a real case. The Built to Creative Designs, they guessed which one would win. So they're designers. So 21 people working with this, they guessed which one would win, and only 3 out of 21 actually guessed the right one. And in this group, no one guessed the right one because it was treatment 5. And the reason why they chose it was similar. It was simpler. And one person said that it looked like a search experience. So the winner, treatment 5, the one at the bottom right, I'm going to show it again. I have to learn how to be quicker to change these. Bam. The one at the bottom right, that one won. It increased revenues from referrals by almost 10% due to increased click-through. So it was quite a difference. All right, so this then, open in place or in tab. So when a visitor comes to the Microsoft Services Network UK homepage, and they're recognized as having a Hotmail account, a small Hotmail convenience module is displayed. And prior to the experiment, if you clicked on this one, you actually, it opened Hotmail in place of, instead of this homepage, Hotmail opened in the same tab. Tabs were kind of a new thing back then. And then someone suggested that, what if we open it in a new tab instead? But yeah, no, people didn't want that. They didn't think that was a good idea, but let's try it, right? So how many of you think that, I'm gonna get the next question. Which one do you think performed the best? So if you open in place in the same window or in a new tab, please use Menti to answer. Which one worked the best to increase engagement with the MSN homepage, I should say. Okay. Too many windows open. This would have been easier if I only had a few. Okay, so 50-50. So some people believe that if you get 50-50 result in a question like this, that half of the people are right. But no, statisticians will tell us that then, you know, people don't know, and we get a very even distribution. It's basically flipping a coin. Well, some people actually in tab has a slight. It's probably statistically significant. More people believe in the tab. So why do you think tab? Anyone who has answered tab, why? Are you answering in the chat?
When you go to a new tab, you don't use the existing content. There's an extra step in actually going back to the existing content.
So you think the tab was better?
Yeah.
Because you're not going back to the content?
Because the other content is on another tab. When you're done with your mail, you get back into the flow of what you were doing otherwise on the tab.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. And that's actually what was the case. So it turned out that, no one almost agreed in the team that the guy who proposed this, but they tested it over a 16-day period. And for those visitors that it actually opened in the tab, the engagement with this homepage increased with 8.9%. because exactly that. When they clicked on it, it opened in a new tab. They checked their email and then they closed the tab. And would that then have happened if it was in place? Then they wouldn't have interacted anymore with the MSN homepage. And this actually was one of the best ways to increase user engagement that Microsoft has ever introduced. And all it required was changing a few lines of code. Some people question it, and they rolled it out to 900,000 users, and it was still 9% increase in engagement. Okay, so redesign the page. Which one should we choose? So we want people to buy the 2007 Office system. It shows that these pictures are a little bit old. So we have on the left side, we have the existing, the control. So we want people, these red borders, these are clickable areas. And we change it. This is the treatment, the B and the A/B test. Okay, we have a bigger button. You can also click here. All right, so the next step in the Menti then, which one wins? Should we redesign the page? No, let's keep the existing one. It's going to be better. Or yes, let's redesign it. Let's go with this one instead. Which one should we choose? The left or the right? Okay, let's have a look at the answers. Yes, let's change it. Why? What's your ideas?
The call for action. The call for action is pretty visible.
Yeah, the call for action is much more visible. It's like a big buy now button. It's in your face, obvious, right? So it turns out that the treatment, the obvious solution on the right, had 64% fewer users click on the buy button. So to increase click-through, it was actually much worse. So what they figured out in qualitative analysis of this, like why would this happen, and when they researched a little bit into it, it turned out that it already said for the left one, you had to click through to see the price. On the right side, the price was already there, so people were like, that's too expensive. But what they didn't test, and this shows some of the pitfalls of running tests like this, is okay, but how many actually ended up purchasing the product? Because that's the real metric. But they only tested it based on click-through, and they said, the left one is still going to be the most effective. But maybe the right one would have led to more purchases for those who actually click through, because they weren't scared away for the price. Okay. I'm going to do one more here. Which search header? So we have the control, search branding experiment on the top, and then at the bottom we add a little bit of a text there, say live search. Live search. So which one do you think performed the best? Which increased searches the most, or which one had the most searches? So the top one, the control, or the bottom one, the treatment? Answer in the Mentis. Which one had the most searches? Okay, let's see what you answered. A little bit of a 50-50, but treatment. Yeah, why do you think the treatment worked better? Anyone who put treatment as their answer? If you're answering, you're muted. Why was the bottom one? Why do you think that was the better one?
There's more focus on the search bar there. That's the only thing I think it's more pretty. I don't know if that's an answer.
More pretty. Yeah. Your intuition about prettiness is spot on this time. But what the designers would say is that usability people say that buttons should have an actionable word. Steve Krug is a bigger Don't Make Me Think. I don't know if you're familiar with this book. I read it a decade ago, and he makes this very clear. So that's why they suggested adding this text. And it actually statistically significantly increased searches by 1.23%. And 1.23% is actually quite big if you have hundreds of millions of users. All right. Let's do one more. Okay, so whoops. So this one then, which search box? So you have one at the top and one at the bottom. They're slightly different. The main difference is popular searches. It says on the bottom of the top one, and the lower one has the search button. So going into the Menti, which search box do you think had the most searches? The top one or the bottom one? Okay. See what you answered. Oh, a little bit of 50-50 here as well. Some more for the treatment. Why the treatment? Oh, it's increasing the treatment. Why did you choose the treatment? Why was that the winner? This one should be easy to reply to.
I like the simplicity that it's the call out. It says search. I mean, that makes it fairly intuitive what to expect and how to use it.
Yeah, and it was basically the same as the last one, right? And now we have this actionable word. We put search in it. But if your answers were about 50-50, you would be right, because it had no significant difference. It didn't matter. It didn't matter which one to use. Even though, well, the last one when we used the word, that worked. Why doesn't it work now? Okay, so the last one, I promise. Which text color in Bing search results should we use? And if you're anything like me and have my site, you would say that I can't almost tell the difference between these colors, but it's a little bit lighter blue on the left, and the treatment color was a bit darker blue, lighter green, a little bit darker, and then we had black and dark gray. So which one performed the best? Had people click on more things and engage with the search results and so on? You think it made a difference? So answer in the Menti. Which color was the best? Okay, let's see. Treatment at the bottom, 62%. Okay, so this, wow, it's increasing 2/3. Why would this change in color have an effect? What's your reasoning? Why do you think this matters so much? Several of you, 2/3. Wow. If you're saying something, you're muted. Why do you think this had such an effect? Or why did you think it was a winner?
I think it gives more contrast.
More contrast? Yeah. You really think that makes a difference, though?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, there were pretty subtle changes, but the results were unexpectedly positive. They showed that users who saw a slightly, you can see the slide now, right? Who saw a slightly darker blues and greens in titles and a slightly lighter black or gray in captions were successful in their searches a larger percentage of the time. And those who found what they wanted did so in significantly less time. And that's like, how is that even possible? Since the color differences are barely perceptible, the results were understandably viewed with skepticism by multiple disciplines, including the design experts. And for years, Microsoft, like many other companies, had relied on expert designers rather than the behavior of actual users to define corporate style guides and colors and so on. So the experiment was rerun with a much larger sample of 32 million users, but the results were similar. And analysis indicated that when this was rolled out to all users, the color changes boosted revenue by more than $10 million annually. $10 million more revenue annually because of that change in colors, right? That's pretty amazing. So looking at the results, and I'm sorry, but I had this slide up here already before I actually had your answer, but you don't know what will work because I knew that you would answer differently on all of these. You don't know, right? But neither do the experts. And all of these examples are actually from the book Trustworthy Online Controlled Experiments. Looking at my pile of books here. Yeah, I have it here somewhere. Let's see. Prove it to you. Here it is. Trustworthy Online Controlled Experiments by Ron Kohavi, who ran testing and experimentation at Amazon and at Microsoft. And he says that the vast majority of new ideas fail in experiments. Even experts often misjudge which ones will pay off. At Google and Bing, only about 10% to 20% of experiments generate positive results, meaning that 80 to 90% of what you do does not have the result that you intended. At Microsoft as a whole, 1/3 proved effective. So it's a little bit better because they're doing internal things or administrators and other developers and so on. 1/3 have neutral results and 1/3 have negative results. So you could assume then, if you're not much better than Google or Microsoft at implementing things and coming up with good ideas, then not only will most of what you do not have the effect that you intended, but actually a negative result. Things will get worse by actually implementing, spending time building and implementing and releasing the solution, and then having it contribute to complicating everything else for the rest of its life, and just sitting there and being maintained and operated in production, costing you money while actually hurting your business. But some people say, but that's consumer-facing products and so on. But no, at Microsoft, that it was not only about that. And this Standish Group Chaos Study, and they've been running this every year now for the last 20 years or so. And these are the results that are typically displayed, that features are hardly ever used or very infrequently used, which might be okay. Some features are not intended to be used all the time, but how you twist and turn this, it's not a good record. So why is this so? Why is this happening? Why are we shipping so much that's not really used? So I've been talking about this for quite some time, and it's like people recognize and then they see what we're talking about and so on, but still they're going back home to their but everything that we have on our backlog, we have years worth of things, so we know these things, so we need to be doing this, and people have been asking for them, and we know that this will bring value, but no, they most likely won't. Henry Ford, if I would have asked my users, they would have said, faster horses. If you ask me on New Year's Day, I say, if I want a gym card, oh yes, for sure, I'm going to go exercise so much this year. If you ask me again in April, how much did you use that gym card? Yeah, well, I really wanted to, I intended to, but we're bad at predicting our own behaviors. There are these experiments when you use focus groups. Was I think it's called a boom box, some kind of speaker where you had a group of people. They were asked, do you prefer the black design or the pink design? And most people were like, yeah, the pink design, it's very cool and blah, blah, blah. And then when they left, they got the option to take from 2 piles of free speakers. They could choose a black or a pink one. Everyone chose the black one from just having come out of a room saying that the pink one is the shit. It's like, yeah, it's so much about identity, and people say things that aren't true, and it's strange. So what upsets me the most maybe is that organizations I talk to and clients I work with, it's not just that, you know, in this VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, it's almost like throwing yourself in a whitewater river, really trying to swim to the other side to struggle against competition and so on. But you're doing it blind. It's like, yeah, we don't know. We don't know if we're building the right thing. We don't know if we're going in the right direction. And typically it's big projects. And what's worse, it's like when we reach the other end of the river successfully, or are we actually on the right side? Did we even, maybe we got back to the same place, or even, you know, further down the river, but we're too busy to even stop to check that. We're not even checking if things have the impact that we want to do, because we're too busy, you know, jumping into another river or another part of the river to blindly swim again because someone told us that this is the thing that we should be doing. So sometimes I feel like this is a little bit of the consulting I'm trying to do. Then you know, trying to force people, like, why aren't you checking the things? Why aren't you testing the things? And maybe I can get them to, you know, oh, what the, it's actually not working. Okay, so when I this is what I'm going to be talking a little bit more about. When I did this live on stage, I just jumped straight into it and without any further ado, and then presented myself a part in. But you already heard a little bit about me, some of the clients I work with, and you have my contact information. So if you feel, oh, I had so many questions, or I wanted to know more about this and that, or I really want to chat about that, just feel free to contact me, and I'll try to answer an email or even set up a video chat if you're interested in that. Okay, so but why are we in this situation? So do you know what this is? It's a kind of rhetorical question. It's one of the first cars. It's from the 1800s, the late 1800s. And if we fast forward to today, someone might recognize the new Tesla model. It's quite a difference. If you imagine, like, the difference between today's car is basically self-steering, and you know, it's updated wirelessly and to new versions. You can unlock more battery, and it's an amazing difference. And looking at this one from also the late 1800s, it's one of the first phones. And fast forward to today, it's quite a difference. It's an amazing difference. Like, it's a small computer connected to all the world's information and to everyone in the world. And yeah, you know. Okay, another invention from the late 1800s, an org chart. Wow, okay, let's see what's happened with this then. That must be an amazing journey. Yeah, maybe not so much. It's pretty much the same, right? It's some more beautiful colors. You know, they didn't have colors back in the 1800s. Everything was black and white, as we know from pictures and movies. So why is that? Because this org chart was basically invented or developed to solve these type of problems. This is Henry Ford's assembly line. Standardized work, where the manager could basically instruct you that this is how you should be doing things. This is the right way to do, and you had time study men who could, you know, see where can be improved, and if they found a better way to do it, they can quickly spread it. Charles Taylor, maybe you heard of him, Taylorism. That was the idea, that we can instruct people how to work even better. And it's individual work. You assemble your thing, it's your hands working, you're doing the thing. And it's subjective in the sense that we can easily see, are you working in a good way or not? Is the result okay? You can easily inspect that with a vision. But everything about that has changed today. The work is not standardized. We don't know, the managers don't know the best way to solve a problem. They're not the most competent person. They don't have access to the same information needed to make decisions and so on. We can't find the best way to do things when there's a complex problem. And it's not individual work, it's teamwork. We need to collaborate, and we need to collaborate with people outside the team and understand other parts of the organization. And the result can be highly subjective. Are we done? Is this the right thing? Is this the best thing you could do? Could we have done it in a smarter, more cheaper way, or in a more innovative way? And will it seem to work now? How will it work 6 months down the line when competition has changed, or some people's interest has moved on to another thing? We don't know. So, I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit here around the org chart. Of course, things have changed, and one change has been this, for instance. Maybe you recognize the picture of the people. Well, it's Martin Fowler standing by the whiteboard, and the Agile Manifesto, of course. So we got Scrum and Agile some 20-25 years ago or more, and this really changed things as we know today. I'm here speaking at Agile Aarhus. Agile has really crossed the chasm, and everyone is using Scrum or some Agile way of working, right? But unfortunately, I feel sometimes it's more like this. Yes, we have a new way of working. We're Agile teams. It's like when we develop things, we're so agile. It's amazing. Wow. But it's only the delivery step of a long line of, pool of ideas and steering committees and blah, 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 blah. And once it hits develop, where we have a way of working that can actually accommodate all of these things that we don't know what we should be building. It's a empirical framework, right? Scrum to figure out the best. No, everything has already been decided, except the implementation details. That's what you can now figure out. That's where you have all the agile freedom and decision power and so on. And then it kind of ends because when you put it in production, someone else is minding it. And I think this disconnect also between dev and ops that DevOps is trying to bridge also actually affects severely this responsibility for the results. Because once we've thrown it over the wall to operations, like, do we even care how the software operates? We have no feedback loop from that. And Jeff Patton described this as the customer vendor anti-pattern. And I'll post a link then later when I share the slides. He has an amazing video and article that really explains this, how we've built up this customer vendor anti-pattern. We act as if we are customers internally in the organization. The business is ordering things from the vendor in IT, with the big change from the difference from a real customer and vendor is that the vendor can't say, no, I don't want your business. That's unreasonable. They're kind of trapped. And the customer don't have the opportunity. Okay, I don't like what you're saying. I'm going to go to another one. No, but they still act and they haggle and they negotiate. And you said that you would deliver it by this date, and then why aren't you finishing it? And thinking if I can force you to deliver earlier to a commitment, I've been a good negotiator and I've saved some money or some time. But no, you're just taking it out of your own pocket, right? So that's a problem. And you could say that the traditional hierarchical organization, I need to change the color of that font. It says top management in the top. Looks a little bit like this, and top management feels that the only way that we can have control, we can't be bothered with the minutiae and detail of all the things going on, but we still want to feel like we're controlling what's happening. We need to make sure that these important strategic things are being done. So the only way historically to control it is long-term project, detailed budgets. We can control costs. We have toll gates and phases and so on. Check something. Mid-management kind of gets stuck in the middle, literally. What can we do? We're not responsible for results. We can only follow up on plan. Are we on time? Are we on budget? Are we on scope? Because when we grew the company, we wanted specialization, resource efficiency, and so on, which forced us to build silos. So collaboration is now kind of hard. Maybe we only have temporary teams put together. And there's no real direct feedback loop because we're not responsible for the results on the front line. So we don't have anything. How is it going? Well, the only thing we can say, well, it seems to be on time, or more often maybe it's not on time. But it's not really saying anything of whether we're reaching our goals or not. And in this traditional hierarchical organization, we often get the product owner as a gatekeeper. As my ex-colleague at Spotify used to express it, gatekeeping context. So the product owner is out there trying to understand, in best case, if they're not just a backlog administrator and the stakeholders are actually out there gathering information, they have access to context about the product, how it's working, some analytics maybe, what's the marketing saying, and what are some trends. The designer, if you even have one, they're able to talk to customers, so also understand things. But then you keep that information from the developers and say, oh, we're going to protect them even, like as if it's a nice thing that you're doing for them, so they can focus on developing. But you're cutting them off by translating it into backlog items, creating a low empathy with the customer. You don't have any direct line of sight. You're not sure how this is helping them. It means low engagement. You're only focused on the technical problems. Can you still hear me well? Because I see my picture froze. So am I frozen to you too?
We hear you.
No, we can hear you.
Can you see me move?
No.
No.
Okay. Let's try this. Restart the camera. Don't want you to miss all my movements. Okay, now I think it's better.
It works now.
Is it worse now? It works now, maybe. Okay, so another or a person that's written quite a lot on this move from this old way of doing things to a new way of doing things, and I'll get back to him in a bit, is Marty Kagan, author of Empowered. He has expressed it as IT teams exist to serve the business rather than to focus on the customer. So we typically see delivery teams in organizations, not cross-functional, basically just developers plus a backlog administrator, product owner, all about output, not empowered. They're just there to code and ship. Maybe if you're lucky, you have a feature team that's usually cross-functional. At least you have some form of designer, some form of product manager, that some people call in a negative way the list owner. Because they can prioritize, but they seem to mostly be, their mandate is to reorder the list and work out some of the details on something that is more or less set already by, sales close this deal, and this is what we actually have to do. These are the requirements, or the project has already made the analysis and we've talked to the customer. This is what you need to be doing, and you can tweak a little bit within that. By the way, Marty also makes this observation that at least half of our ideas are just not going to work. He was the CPO of eBay and earlier Netscape, and he worked with a lot of Silicon Valley and tech companies over there. So at least half the ideas are not going to deliver. Really good teams assume that at least 3/4 of the ideas won't perform like we hope. Okay, sad. It's the customer vendor anti-pattern is kind of baked into Scrum as well, unfortunately, and this is also why I call this beyond Scrum, because the product owner is basically the internal customer and the team is the vendor, and they're ordering things from the vendor. So what can we do? Well, fortunately, it's no secret what great companies do, and some of what I learned at Spotify, for instance, I came to Spotify in 2011. I half joked about I'm tired of making, helping large companies suck a little bit less. It would be interesting to see, how far can you take this in a company that's willing to try things and take it further. And well, I really got what I asked for and some more. In 2011, I brought in Jeff Patton. I felt that I knew much about what good looked like, but clients weren't ready for it. I brought in Jeff Patton, the creator of the user story mapping, and he ran his passionate product owner course with all the product managers, designers, and engineering managers at Spotify, back when we could actually fit all of them in the same room. Jeff was a partner to, or he had been working with Marty Kagan, and Marty Kagan put out his book Inspired in, I think, 2008 already, that product managers at Spotify read on product discovery and how you actually do it. We introduced Lean Startup that came out in 2011. We tried to get product owners to read it, and we read it in the Agile Coach group and so on. And maybe you are familiar with some of these concepts of books? You should be, right? And we also, Lean UX, Jeff Gothel, also a book that was popular at Spotify, came out in 2013. And we worked with Facebook from an early stage. Mark Zuckerberg and our founder were friends early on. We had people from Google that came working for Spotify. We looked at what they were doing. We had exchanges with them, with Amazon. We poached people from there too. Netflix, we had Rochelle King, our new director of design, come in 2012 to head up design and product discovery really at Spotify. And the interesting things about these books, as I mentioned, they all came out in 2011 to 2013. And they were already then, or 2008 even, on product discovery, describing things that had been working pretty well for a lot of companies for years. And now it's like 2022. So when I came out on the other side 2017 from Spotify, I knew that we've been, far ahead and pushing the limits a little bit on this, but still people aren't doing this. Why? Did time stand still, or what happened? Sometimes when 2017, my first clients I worked on, maybe this is not true for other industries. But we learned a lot of counterintuitive truths at Spotify. Every developer that came into Spotify, like when we looked at these buttons and search things in the beginning, I know how to simplify. I know how we can make this much easier. I have so many ideas. And they were like, we tried them several times. And you're wrong. It's like, what? How can that be? But still, even if I explain this, people don't feel it in their bones. But most of what we do, we're pretty sure. We know that this will help. They even say so when we demo it. Thanks for the gym card. Great, I'm so going to use this. It's amazing. People complained like crazy when we removed some features at Spotify. But, looking at the data, they didn't use it. And they're still with Spotify. Like, why should we listen to their rants and outcries? Spotify was actually pretty cynical about that, but it's a different story. So I also was part of the learning consortium. Steve Denning, director at the World Bank for quite some time, and a writer at Forbes, and he stumbled on to the Silicon Valley and the software development companies. He was this general management guru. He'd been working a lot on these conferences and so on. And then he was, wow, some really cool things is happening here. He wrote The Leader's Guide to Radical Management more than 10 years ago. I brought him to a conference that I hosted in Stockholm 11 years ago. And he got on the board of Scrum Alliance, and he tried to drag Scrum and Agile into these general management conferences. And they were like, what? Why should we listen to IT? The guys in the basement, what can they possibly teach us about how to run a company and what management is? And then, software was eating the world, and then Google and all of these were quite successful. And but still, he had a hard time convincing these people. So he put together, when he was on the board of Scrum Alliance, something called a learning consortium. And I became a representative for Spotify, even though we weren't a full member. So they just visited big companies, born Agile, like Spotify, Riot Games, and so on, but also those who have made huge transformations, maybe not the entire company, but Barclays, a 300-year-old bank, parts of Ericsson, a printer, Microsoft, C.H. Robinson within logistics, Turner in medical equipment, and Fidelity Investments in finance and investment funds and so on, to look at what are big organizations doing that's actually, making this work for them. What is the difference? And what we came up with was Steve phrased it in 3 laws. I don't know if anyone's seen this. He summarized it in the book Age of Agile. So it's really about breaking things down into small things and have small teams deliver it. And that's, everyone understands that. That's like what 95% about Agile is about, at least in practice. So most people got that. But then the law of the customer, this insane customer focus, it's not a function or a silo that cares about what the customer says or is doing. Everyone in the company, every team has their way of working, their tools, analytics, metrics, access to customer and the problems, to be able to interview them, listen to them, and listen, not ask, what do you want? Okay, let's build it. No, what do you want? And let's me on this, get clues about what your real needs are to try different things with you that you don't know that you even want or need. So in the words of Marty Keegan and his Silicon Valley product group, which is similar, there's a difference in how we build and deploy things. And that is basically Agile and DevOps and so on the team level, but also in how we solve problems. And this is less common, and how we decide which problems to solve, how leaders and managers can work to support that. So Marty Keegan agrees, by the way. I stole that phrase from him, actually. Well, he didn't mind, but it's no secret how great product companies work. In most companies, technology teams exist to serve the business. It's a cost of doing the real business. But in strong product companies, the purpose of the product team is to serve customers by creating products customers love, yet work for the business. And this is not just a play with words. It's a huge difference in practice. So it's really, about moving away from this and turning the pyramid upside down, if you will, to an empowered network organization where you have self-organizing, cross-functional teams, empowered product teams that collaborate between each other in a network organization, not traversing management hierarchies to get things done and so on, but really collaborating, because that's made possible when management is focusing on vision and goals, supplying these teams with the strategic context and insights, and then acting as servant leaders, developing people and deblocking them and creating an environment where they can actually collaborate successfully, because the goal is clear. If we all know where we're headed, then we can use our autonomy or empowerment and still be aligned. And instead of these delivery and feature teams, we want empowered product teams, cross-functional, focused on and measured by outcome, and empowered to come up with solutions that work. And what does that mean? So you probably heard this, but just to make sure we're all on the same page. We hear about needs and problems and pains, and we see opportunities with changing user or customer behaviors, and this will help with a declining revenue or brand recognition. This leads to ideas on products and features and enhancements, and it's so easy to now start focusing on them and get lost, and maybe even on specifications and requirements, or maybe because that's the only thing we're asked to focus on. And are we building the feature? Are we deploying it? But you should be caring about this, maximizing the outcome. Is it actually changing user behavior? Are more people engaging? Are more people clicking? Are more people finding the search results? Are the administrators able to close more cases in an hour, or are we just building features? Minimize output and maximize outcome, and then you will have impact. The activities, epics, features, stories, whatever. That's how we believe we are going to reach our outcomes, but they are just hypotheses and bets. They have to change if the numbers aren't improving. So moving from opinions to data, we're working on X because Sam said it's important, or the project specification says that. We're done when Sam is okay with it, or when the specification is complete. No, we're working on X because we think it's going to give impact Y, which matters to Spotify because of Z. And we're done when the metrics have moved. And when we know that most of the things are not going to give us the result that we believe they would, it's all about how quickly can we experiment and figure out without building production software. Can we move fast and prototype and do things without having to resolve dependencies with lots of other teams, and only resolve those dependencies once we've proven that our idea has merit, or otherwise not even build it at all. Or as Google puts it, let data drive decisions, not the hippo, the highest paid person's opinion. Moving away from a product owner as gatekeeper to a product manager as facilitator and collaborative leader. Changing the name, that has happened a lot in the industry lately, is emphasizing that the product owner is just a role you fulfill in Scrum, but product management is more broad than that. And it's a lot about facilitating context. So instead of being that gatekeeper, you try to make the context more easily digestible. Pick the right things. What are the most interesting things? What stands out? And present the problem to the team, and together with them facilitate a conversation to, okay, what should we do next? A quick example. So this is what a product owner at Spotify taste onboarding, for instance, might put together. Okay, this is what we see. Probably the whole team has access to all the graphs and metrics and so on, but they're helping you to pick out what's the most important thing here. We work with product analytics maybe to figure that out, and they have the bandwidth and skills to do that in a better way. And then presenting, this is what we believe, this is the analysis to improve, we should optimize friction versus blah, 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 without hurting this. They're describing the constraints of the problem. And within that, okay, given they're not saying that and hence we should build feature X. No, they're inviting the team to have a dialogue. What could we do? And maybe they already have some ideas, but if the teams come up with just those same ideas, it's going to be much more engaging. And you make sure from the start that they get it. Same thing with user interviews and user research to summarize the most important thing. And then you get the product manager as a collaborative leader, because great successful products are built in this intersection. It's not enough that it's valuable. It's not enough that it's usable by the user. It also has to be feasible. And the engineers are often the ones who are working, or they are the ones who are working on a daily basis with the enabling technology. Only they know what's possible. You need to involve them. Or as Bill Campbell, the $1 trillion coach, said, empowered engineers are the single most important thing that you can have in a company. It's pretty unknown, but he was the coach of Google and Facebook and Apple and so on, and Steve Jobs. But this is hard, give people problems to solve when you have this air sandwich, the clear vision maybe on the top, and it's clear how we work day to day. But then, how is this connected? This gap is in a big organization is often too big. And this is where leaders really need to get in and explain and connect the dots and help convey this message. And I see that I'm not going to be, I'm going to finish this. So if you have to leave, you can watch the recording later. So I'm going to see, will my sound get through?
Nope, it's not getting through.
Okay, not getting through. Okay, so if you haven't seen this, it's I'm going to stop here. So it's phase 1, we collect underpants. Phase 2, what's phase 2? Oh, we don't know, but phase 3 is profit. You see, phase 1, collect underpants. Phase 2, it's unclear, question mark. Phase 3, profit. This is you can watch the video after, but it's a great example of how the meat in the sandwich is gone. There's no real connection. We don't understand the connection. So transparency and communication is needed. It's not enough to have a shared vision and alignment if you're not communicating and have this transparency. If managers aren't sharing information with you, you should default to open, sharing as much as possible. And this is an example from Spotify, where 60 to 70 of our most senior managers had strategy days. Not only did they share all the slide decks, they recorded all the presentations, all the Q&A, and shared it with everyone in the company. And just only have a couple of slides, 2 slides more left. Just to be a little bit more clear on what strategic context means. It's a clear and compelling vision, a product strategy that ensures focus, that you're really working on the most important problems. Some companies have put everything into a strategy. Everything needs to be connected to the thing at the top. No, only the most important things. So when you get asked to help with the most important thing, you can't say, oh, but I'm also working on the most important thing, because everything is important. But it's actually a signal that you should help. business goals and connected product objectives that have really clear statements. What are the problems to solve? And then user research and analytics that provide people with key insights and help people shape the strategy. And this is super crucial and something that's always often missed. Because if all you have is a pretty fluffy vision or maybe some metrics and then at the bottom and air in between, this is how you fill the air, by key insights. Otherwise, you're guessing when you're prioritizing things against each other. Just give a short example of a strategic insight example from Slack. Slack, when you sign up to create a new Slack workspace, you enter your email address and create the workspace. It turns out that more than 90% who have done that never invite anyone to start using Slack. Never. So Slack seems to be great at leading the horse to the water, but not getting it to drink. And they did their homework. They analyzed metrics and came to the insight that, users who send 2,000 messages are much more likely to keep using and eventually paying for the service. It actually turns out that no matter the size of the company, 10 or 5,000, as soon as you hit 2,000 messages, 93% of those customers are still using Slack a year later. So now we know that's a strategic insight. We should be focused on this quarter or have as an objective. How can we get people to come to this limit, to really activate them? Airbnb had something similar with 10 photos. They actually offered free photographers to help people create more pictures with their objects and so on. 2-week retention for Spotify. All right, sorry for the abrupt ending, but in summary, great product companies work in a different way compared to most companies. It's not about Scrum. It's about a difference in how they build and deploy software. Well, that kind of has to do with Scrum, but it's more how they solve problems, how they decide which problems to solve, for instance, strategic insights, and how they lead and manage teams and people. And most of you probably don't work like this, but the good news is that it's no secret how others do it, and you can learn how to do it too. And shameless sales plug, if you want to learn more how to do it and more about how Spotify did it, I have some courses and I'll give you a 20% discount. Other than that, any questions, I'll be here for a while, and feel free to hit me up with an email. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Joakim, for sharing your insight and personal experience. As Joakim alluded to, time is up. Hopefully not for Affinity, but for this session. But as Joakim also said, he's going to be around. So if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to shoot them. I am going to stop the recording now though. So, but stick around and ask your questions if you have some.